All right, let's dive into one of the most foundational stories ever, Genesis chapter 3. But here's the thing, we're not going to treat this as a heavy theological text. Nope, instead, we're going to look at it as a masterclass in storytelling. We're breaking it down into this super tight, six-act drama, full of temptation, a huge choice, and consequences that have been echoing for millennia.
So this is really the big question at the heart of the story, isn't it? It all boils down to a single moment, just one decision that completely changes the course of everything. The stakes are as high as they get, which is exactly what makes the story so powerful and why it stuck around for so long.
So, Act 1. The curtain rises on the Garden of Eden, and the stage is set for absolute perfection. I mean, we're talking total abundance, total freedom, but you and I both know that every good story needs some tension, right?
And here it is. In the middle of all this you can do anything freedom, there's just one single prohibition. This one command is the pivot point for the entire drama. It's like the pin holding the whole structure together. Everything that's about to happen revolves around this one rule.
And the rule itself, it's crystal clear. There's no room for misinterpretation. The stakes are laid out plain as day. It's a matter of life or death. It's this clarity, this lack of wiggle room that makes the choice that's coming up so incredibly dramatic.
And here's where things get interesting. A new character slithers onto the stage. The text describes the serpent as the shrewdest of all the animals, and its motive becomes obvious almost immediately. It's here to mess with that one single rule.
Now pay attention to the serpent's strategy here because it's brilliant. It doesn't come in hot with an argument or a demand. No, it just asks a question. Did God really say? That's a masterstroke of dialogue. It subtly twists what God said and plants this tiny, potent seed of doubt. And boom, there it is, the central conflict in a nutshell. The woman is now facing two completely opposite claims. On one side, you have God's very clear warning, obey and you live. But on the other, the serpent's tempting promise, you won't die. In fact, you'll be like God. The choice literally could not be more stark.
So, this is it. Act 3. This is the turning point of the entire story. With two conflicting stories on the table, a choice has to be made. This is that moment where everything shifts from what if to what now.
You know, the text actually gives us a peek inside her head. It breaks down her reasoning into three parts. First, there's the physical appeal. Hey, it looks good to eat. Then, the aesthetic. It's pleasing to the eye. And finally, the intellectual appeal. It's desirable for gaining wisdom. It's such a compelling and, honestly, a deeply human way to rationalize a choice. And then, the action. She eats. But there's this little detail in the text that is so easy to miss but is absolutely crucial. She gives some to her husband, who was with her. Think about that. He wasn't off in another part of the garden. He was right there, a silent witness to the whole thing. And he eats it too. And just like that, the rule is broken.
So, what happens next? Do they suddenly become gods? Well, not exactly. Instead, their eyes are opened, but what they see is their own vulnerability, and that brand new awareness immediately curdles into shame and fear, and they run and hide.
Now the confrontation. You'd think maybe this is the moment for a confession, for someone to take responsibility, but that is not what this story gives us. What we get instead is one of the oldest, most relatable human behaviors there is, the blame game.
And this just lays it all out perfectly. Look at this sequence. God asks the man what happened. He immediately blames the woman, but notice how he does it. The woman you gave me. Wow. He's actually subtly trying to shift the blame back onto God. So then God turns to the woman, and she passes the buck straight to the serpent. The blame just keeps getting passed down the line until it hits a dead end.
So since nobody's taking responsibility, the story moves straight to the consequences. And there's a really fascinating structure here. The judgments? They're delivered in the reverse order of the blame.
And that makes perfect sense from a storytelling perspective, right? You hold the person who started the whole mess accountable first. Judgment begins right at the source of the problem, and that was the serpent.
So the serpent's fate is all about being humbled. I mean, literally brought low, crawling in the dust. And the judgment also sets up this state of perpetual conflict, this unending hostility between its offspring and the woman's.
Next up, the woman. Her consequences are incredibly personal. They touch on two of the most fundamental parts of human life,
Childbirth is now going to be marked by pain. And that perfect harmony she had in a relationship, that's fractured, replaced by a new, far more complicated dynamic.
And finally, the man. His consequence is all tied to his work and where he came from. The ground itself is now cursed for him. Life is no longer going to be easy. It's a struggle, a fight against thorns and thistles. And that struggle is going to define his entire life until he returns to the dust, which, if you think about it, confirms God's original warning.
All of this, the choice, the blame, the consequences, it all leads us to the final, somber act of this play. Innocence is gone. Mortality is now a reality. And their time in the garden? It's over.
Now, the reason the text gives for their exile is really important. It's not just another punishment. The text frames it as a preventative measure. They are banished to stop them from eating from the tree of life and locking themselves into this fallen state for all eternity.
And the story closes on this incredibly powerful, unforgettable image. You have these angelic beings and a flaming sword guarding the way back. It just screams finality, doesn't it? The gates to paradise are officially closed. So there you have it, a full story arc, from perfection all the way to hardship. It's packed with themes of temptation, blame, and that painful kind of awareness that comes with new knowledge. And the whole thing pivots on one single, fateful choice.
Which leaves us with one final thought to chew on. This story has been told for thousands of years. So what parts of this ancient drama, the temptation, the finger-pointing, that loss of innocence, what parts still echo in the stories we tell, and maybe in how we understand our own lives today?